You're watching Tristar Diggin. My name is Sam and I'm glad you're here today. We're going to install an underground electrical service. This can be a DIY project, or if you're brand new to excavation, haven't done one of these yet, stick around. We're going to talk about the do's and the don'ts and how you should properly install this electrical conduit. Make sure you pass inspection. That's number one. Number one, you want to pass inspection. And then once you pass inspection, you get that thing covered up, put the burial tape in it and all that. We'll cover all that just a little bit. We've got to get the cat off the truck here. I've got the trencher already on it, so let's get started. And while I'm getting this unchained, you can do this several different ways. One is you can have an excavator with a small bucket on it. Usually a 12-inch bucket will be fine. That's basically all you need to dig in an electrical service. Or you can do like I'm doing, using a skid steer with a trencher on it. Another option is just buy or rent, basically rent a trencher with it's either you can get a walk behind trencher or a ride on trencher. I would recommend a ride on trencher for this kind of a ditch because it's got to be pretty deep, and those walk behinds, they can be a little difficult to use. On a skid steer, an excavator, or any kind of farm equipment or whatever you're using, if it has remote hydraulics, meaning that you've got hydraulic hoses you can hook up to the machine in a location. The place where the contamination happens the most for your hydraulic oil, I would say the most, is where you can make these connections. It just takes a second to take a rag, your glove or a shirt. I've seen that. I've seen that a lot of times. Just take your shirt and just wipe them off, and get that dirt and grime off of those fittings before you plug them up. And then simply the flat face, you just simply plug those in like that, and you are ready to go. Now some attachments like my power rake, they have an electrical plug as well, and that would plug up right here for my machine. Each machine's a little bit differently, but that allows that machine, that power rake, to plug in there, and then there's electrical controls you can use on the joysticks inside the cab. I also want to make sure you check your machine too. I had a question one time from a guy that said, why do you check your oil every single day that you get in your machine? And a good reason for that is there's a lot that you can tell from the oil of a machine or truck or whatever you're driving. It's basically cheap insurance. When I pull that dipstick out like I'm going to do here, first thing I see and want to make sure of is that it's full. It's got plenty of oil in it, and you can see that little hole in the stick there. That's the full line. Another thing you can see, if you're getting water or coolant inside your oil, the head gasket or whatever the case may be, you're going to see a grayish looking, milky looking oil in that. And also you may be losing oil, and then that's a bad sign. So if your engine is not leaking oil, it's just burning the oil, if you don't keep a check on it, you'll run out of oil and you'll burn your engine up. So I think he was curious more than anything, but that's basically why you check your oil every day. It's just a good way to take care of your equipment, that's for sure. And then hydraulic oil is the same thing. The hydraulic oil is very hard on this machine to get to, but there's a little gauge in there that's usually got dirt on it. You wipe that off and then you'll be able to see it. And then obviously you want to keep your machine greased. I greased this the last time I used it, so it is fine on that. But it's really important, especially the high wear area, like the pins on the bucket and the lift arms. This would be the lift arm here. That pin right there takes a lot of dirt and grime, gets in that pin area and wears those out. And then also the tilt cylinder pins, which are right here, those also, because a lot of dirt's falling over the bucket a lot of times and getting in those pin areas, causes excessive wear, and then it takes time and money to replace those. Let's hop in the machine here and get it fired up, warming up, and we'll be starting to dig here in a minute. Key on. Then it's going to fire it up. So it goes through its system, it boots up there, and then you're ready to start. Nope, you got to put your arm down first. That's it, we are fired up. I'm going to let this thing warm up for a minute, and you know, one thing I didn't do before I left home was check the fuel. Come on, please have fuel in this machine. Oh, we got a quarter of a tank. And I know the tank on my truck is out. I hope that's enough. But it should be. It's only 170 feet or so from where I'm going to put the starting point in at the pole at the road, and then up here this transformer box. And if your windshield is as dirty as mine, you want to clean that so you can see. That should be warmed up pretty good now, and let's back this, uh-oh, I've hooked my bucket, there we go. Let's back this machine off the trailer. And one important thing you want to do is don't get in such a big hurry that you forget to put the tail of your trailer down. That would have been a horrendous crash going off the end of that trailer. Now I would have noticed it when I got to about right here that the trailer wasn't down yet. I've never done that and backed out too far on it, but that is really important that you get that tail down. This has got a hydraulic tail on it, it's remote controlled. So you get that tail drop down and you slide that machine right off there. It would have been bad for me, but it would have made a good video, I guess, if I'd have backed that machine off there. That wouldn't have been good. Talking about greasing machine, one thing that I definitely want to grease is this idler right here for this chain. This is in the ground all the time while it's digging. And each time I use it, I want to grease this after each use or before I use it the next time, because that right there takes a beating. Fitting like this, when it's in the dirt all the time, I like to grease it until I see grease starting to come out around somewhere right there. Two things that tells me, or two things that does. One, it tells me I've got grease sufficiently inside that area now. And the second thing it does, any dirt that's in there, it helps push that out all the way around that system there to try to get any of that dirt out and to keep that thing greased. Now then, we are ready to come off this trailer. Here we go. Getting pulled up to the site here where the power company has marked the pole location, so let's get out and take a look at what they've got marked here. Oh, I see where they've got the pole location marked, and it is right there. That's one of the first things that you want to do is contact your local power company and apply for a new service. I guess that's what you would call it. And then they will come out and look at your property, mark the location where they want a pole or where they want a transformer or where they want the lines to run. And we'll take a look at that in just a second. Our destination is up there closer to the house where that is. Let's talk a minute about trenchers. There are different styles and brands and different configurations of trenchers. This one is a pretty heavy duty trencher. It's actually a Bobcat brand trencher, but it works with a Caterpillar machine. It works with any skid steer style machine. You just gotta make sure your couplers, hydraulic couplers, match up what you want to do. This is a heavy duty chain. What I mean by that, it's got Diggin teeth, which are these teeth right here. They're offset both ways, in and out. But this one has rock teeth on it. What I mean by that, I guess you call that carbide. It's got a carbide tip on it, and that is made for some really tough digging. When you get into roots and rocks and stuff like that, you need something to be able to cut that stuff and for like rocks, bust it up and kind of dig that out. And that's what this chain is designed for and made. And without that, if you start digging in rock with a regular chain, you're gonna run into problems really quick. So you gotta kind of know your soil conditions, what kind of area you're gonna be digging in, whether you need to rent a machine with rock teeth on it or just rent a chain with a machine with regular chains on it. And then what happens as this digs, it brings dirt back to the back of it, and then that auger pulls that dirt out to the side to get it out of the way of the trench. This one also has a power shift on it, and I'll show you that in just a second. Just by simply moving this lever over to this side right here, then that allows the hydraulics in here to move this trencher all the way over the side. And let me show you that right quick. So you saw me move that lever, now then let's move this over. We'll raise it up. And the same button in the machine that I use to activate the auger to dig is the same button or switch that I use to move this thing over left and to the right. That is a pretty cool feature on this trencher. Some of them have manual, where you can move them over manually, and some of them are just static positions where they're just set in the middle of the trencher. Let's move it back over to the middle, right there. And then let me, I'm gonna move that lever over. We're gonna check the chain, make sure everything's working good with that. Let me climb in the machine here and show you that switch I was talking about. It's I just knocked the camera almost out of my head with the door. So that switch is this. It's a roller switch, so you can, let me raise it up. So when you roll this switch, it activates that chain forwards, or if you put it the other way, in reverse. Now this machine has a switch that we can keep a constant flow of hydraulic fluid going to that trencher without having to manually move that rocker switch. And then the position it's in right now, when I remove that switch, it activates the chain, and then when I let go of that switch, it turns the chain off. So to activate constant flow, come up here on this machine and hit this button right here, and you'll see that blinking now on the screen. And you come down here and you press it and you hold it for just a few seconds, and then that chain stays on without having to touch it. So that's basically 2 ways to operate that. If you're just doing a little bit of finesse or a little touching and you don't want that chain to keep spinning, then turn your constant flow or continuous flow off, and then you can just kind of manually do it with your thumb. It's getting hot in here, need just a touch of air conditioning. There we go. Got the air rolling, and now then let's climb out and take a look at what the power company marked for us. So the power company will come out and they will look at the location of the house or barn or garage, whatever it is you're needing power to, shop, and then they will lay that out for you. On this situation, and they mark the flags, this is where they're going to put a pole. So the power will come into a pole here, and it will come down the pole and go underground up to a transformer. So what they'll do is right there is where the power, they'll probably pull off that power pole right there, or that transformer down there at the end at that other pole, and bring it overhead to here. Then what I have to figure out is the best route to get me to that transformer box. And I would say the best route would be, if it wasn't for this pole here is kind of in the way, I actually might move that over just a little bit, just so I can get my trencher chain in right here, because I think I can reach it, and just go right up straight into this driveway area here, probably curve up to the driveway, and then go straight across up to this transformer box. So let me go up here and take a look at that, where they've got that marked at. If this rock wasn't here, if I hadn't already built this driveway and I already put this rock in, I would just trench a straight line from that pole where they're going to set it, a straight line up to the transformer box. The reason I don't do that now is because it's going to tear up this road, it's going to tear up this driveway and this rock, and it's going to mix a lot of dirt with the rock, just make a mess. But sometimes you have to do that anyway, but this situation I can go to the side of it. Walking up here to the house, this is where the transformer box is setting, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, how you set that and make sure that that meets their standards when that's put in. And fortunately, on a job like this, the contractor that I work for, they generally have all the supplies for me. I don't have to go run supplies. They generally have those delivered and taken care of for me. So that is setting over here to the side. They've got 17 sticks here. It's 10 foot long. And then they got the sweeps that turn up the pole and turn up inside that box. That's going to be really handy to not have to run that down. I did have to pull my glue and my string out. Oh, Kevin forgot that part. Fortunately, I had that in the truck, so that's going to work out pretty good. And you might say, well, what's that string for? Well, stay tuned, because I'm going to show you how to pull that string through that pipe really easily. After thinking about this for just a few minutes, I wanted to see how much, I knew I had 170 feet of pipe, so I wanted to see how far it is from this pole location over to the transformer. And basically it is 172 feet or so from here up to that other location. My first thoughts when I was talking to Kevin was to go across the road right here at an angle, and then turn and follow the driveway on the left side going all the way up to the transformer box. I can't do that because that's a longer distance. That probably would add about 25 or 30 feet, I suppose, to the distance. I didn't measure it off, but I don't have enough pipe for that, so I'm going to make this work. I'm going to cut across the driveway up there where I come off the trailer with the skid steer, and I think I might have a little bit of fuel in that tank up there. I'm going to see if I got a little bit of fuel in the tank on the truck, and just top it off just a tad. All right, let's see if we got anything. Yeah, we do. We got a little bit. I turned the truck a little bit sideways and got the fuel running to the intake for that pump. We've got fuel. That'll be good. Thankful for that fuel. The next thing we want to talk about is what the requirements are from the power company that you're going to be getting power from. In this situation, working for Volunteer Electric Company Corporation, VEC, Volunteer Electric Corporation, they require that the primary line be covered 36 inches deep from the top of the pipe to the top of the ground there. And that means, this being a 4-inch pipe thereabouts, you need to dig your ditch 40 inches deep, and that way you've got 4 inches of your pipe, and then you got 36 inches of fill over the top of that pipe then. So that's what we'll do right here, and we'll stick the auger in the ground, the trencher in the ground, and this part right here where they're going to put the pole, they'll put that pole here, that sweep actually comes up and sweeps up. So this actually doesn't have to go 36 inches deep right here. It just has to kind of be a curve where they're going to start and set the pole. Started there, it's a good thing there's rock teeth on that, because we've got plenty of that. It is breaking it up pretty good though. Got hung once, but it's going to flip that stuff out pretty good. One other vital piece of information that I forgot to share at the beginning of this is that you need to call 811. In Tennessee, 811 call before you dig. I know that's the same thing in other states, and I don't know what it is for your local area, but you definitely want to call in your locates and make sure that you don't have any underground power, water, cable, telephone lines, because if you hit that and you haven't called in, gotten it marked, you're responsible for it. And I've had some close calls and some situations where yeah, it wasn't too good. Fortunately, it wasn't my fault or my problem, because it was improperly marked. That's another thing. When they mark those lines, you're required to make sure that you are on 2 feet either side of that line, that you have checked that to make sure that line's not there. Now, outside of that distance, whatever it is in your area, I think it's 2 feet here. I just make sure with there's a line there, I make sure I'm covered on both sides of it pretty good. If it's outside of that area in your jurisdiction, wherever you are, and you cut whatever it is, that's not on you, that's on them, because it was improperly marked. You have to be a certain distance away from their line on both sides. Now then, with that explained, that's the most important part of this whole job, is make sure that you call that in. Now then, let's get I've got to get a tape measure out of the truck, because I forgot that too. Get my measurement figured out here on my depth, and then we're going to head out with this thing and try to get this dug in. This initial part right here where that sweep's going to be at the pole is 2 feet deep. That is plenty. And then now from right in there where the end of my tape measure is, I'm going to get that down to 40 inches deep or thereabouts and carry on with it. One thing to note is you can put a gradual turn in that pipe. You can't go really steep because it makes it more difficult for them to pull wire through it, but you can put a gradual sweep in it to get around, you know, a tree or whatever the case may be that you're trying to get around. You can do that. Just be careful with a trencher, especially a trencher, because if you start putting a lot of twist on a trencher, you can bend that bar, and that's a bad day when you do that, especially if it's a rental. So what you saw me do there is kind of seesaw my way to kind of get a little bit of a curve on this trench to get me down to that 30-40 inches that I need to be. But I want to kind of straighten this thing up after I get past this pole a little bit. Now let's crank up the juice. Let's dig this thing. Boy, that's a big rock right there. I think we got through it though. Now that I want to get out right here and check my depth and see how I'm looking as far as my 40 inches deep. That is nowhere near deep enough. And once you get started, you kind of get an eyeball of where your 40 inches deep is, or the right depth that you're trying to dig, no matter what the depth. Kind of get an eyeball on where that trencher is in the ditch. You don't really have to get out and check it a whole lot because you just kind of get a feel for it. The more you do it, the more you get to experience that doing it. So let's get this to the right depth and take on with it. a good start now to it, and I've got down to the depth where I need to be. And what you'll see me do, I'm gonna time lapse this, you'll see me do is raise up, reposition, and drop it back down in there to kind of get that turn made. Because that trench is so deep, I don't want to turn with that blade in the ground and make much of a turn, because I don't want to damage it. So you just kind of dig a little bit, you reposition, drop it back down in there, and eventually we're gonna be back there where we need to be. That pretty good, and then I've hit a pretty hard seam of rock. Let's talk about that just for a second, what I'm doing now to kind of get through that. For whatever reason, there's a really tough seam of rock in that area, and what I'm doing to get through that is I'm just going a little more shallow. I've raised the trencher up just a little bit and shallowing my path, and then I'll come back and do a little bit more and then a little bit more. It just takes a little while for those rock teeth to chew through that stuff. And as long as you don't hit some really hard rock that just you can't get through, it does a pretty good job of busting up rocks like that right there. It just takes a minute to get through those seams, and when I get through that one, as I get further, a little bit farther back, that's probably going to end. It'll just be in sections out through there, I hope. Got through that one seam of rock that was back in this area here. Now I'm into another one, even bigger one, and I'm not liking that very well, because I'm having to pull out chunks of rock like this right here. That's a big rock, but I got it out, and it's just about chewing through it. I hope I don't end up. Once before I was digging through some hard stuff and I blew out a seal in this motor, hydraulic motor. It wasn't real complicated to change. It wasn't fun either, but hope I don't end up doing that again. Well, I found something interesting. That's an old piece of black pipe right there. It looks like 2-inch pipe. Luckily no water came out of it. And it came across, where's that at? Right here. You can see the other end of it right here. And so it came across really shallow actually, right there. Just right under the ground basically. But we do know there was an old house site here, and that's probably an old water line, or maybe an old septic line or something, I don't know. But the house was really old that used to sit there. finding all kinds of interesting things. Now I found the old drain field for the septic system right there. If you can see that 4-inch corrugated pipe right there, that's what that was, because it's embedded with rock around that. You never know what you're going to find when you stick that tool in the ground and start digging. Go inside the cab here just for a few minutes and let you see what I'm seeing, which is some really hard rocky ground. That's what I'm seeing. Man, this is rough ground. If this was a power line that was 500 foot long or 1,000 foot long, I would not be doing it with this trencher as rough as this ground is. It's just too hard on that trencher to cut through those rocks. I would definitely go back and get the excavator. And honestly, I probably should have brought the excavator with me, because I generally do that, bring it on the same trailer. I guess I just got a little lazy last night, thought, oh, it's just 150 feet or so, it'll be easy to dig. And it is. I don't know that I would have switched over by now to the Mini X, especially on a short run like this. But if it was any longer, I'd definitely, or considerably longer, I definitely would. I am going to keep digging on this here for a little while. And looks like I got into another section of field line. No, that was a big root. Golly, that was a big old root. Anyway, I'm going to keep digging this out. I've got 3/4 of it already done, I guess. No, probably 2/3. And we'll get this last third done, and we'll talk about putting in pipe and the berry tape, the caution tape that goes in the ditch, and digging in where this transformer goes. A bit of a problem here. I noticed that the auger wasn't kicking dirt out to the side like it should. And I got to looking at it, and it wasn't spinning. It was in a bind, it would stop spinning. Basically what happened is I broke a pin that goes in right there, and I'll have to slide that off and find the hole where that goes and then slide it back on. Ooh. Now then, where's that hole at? Right there it is. Right there. Now you can see all the way through there. Let's go see if we can find a bolt and put back in that. I carry a couple of little small toolboxes full of bolts in my truck. Don't judge me. It's a mess, I know. Oh, but it's a working truck. I carry a couple of boxes of miscellaneous bolts and screws and nuts and stuff. So let's see if we can find something. That right there, I think I found it first thing. That might not fit all the way through. Let's check it and see if that's how much longer it needs to be than that. Oh, it's not even close. It would go through the shaft, but it won't go through the this piece here. It's gotta be. It needs to be about 2 inches longer. That. So let's see if we can find one. I don't see anything long enough in this one on top anyway. Let me look on top of this other one, see if I can find something fairly easy. There we go. That's probably too long though. I learned something here that I didn't know. There's actually 4 holes here, settings so you can move this auger farther out away from the chain to move the material. I think it probably was running in this first hole. I'm gonna move it to this second hole. See if that don't help move material away a little bit farther. This bolt that I got here, these washers are a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but it doesn't matter. I don't suppose it's not gonna get hung on anything. And there's the first one, and there's the second one. There we go. Get this tightened down and we'll be back in business. Got that dug up here all the way to where the transformer box is going to be, and I am glad to have that dug out. Because that last 100 feet was a pain. I mean, it was nothing but rock all the way through there. I'll show you some of the hardest places it was to get through, and it was rough. Look down in this ditch now, and I'll show you, maybe you can see, but those are just solid pieces of rock right down in there. And this was a tough section. So that's what the ditch looks like from the insides. And turning around now, that's up towards the transformer box. Some tough digging, and especially right here, I'm a little bit shallow in this area, but there's nothing I could do. I'm at least 36 inches deep though. Maybe not quite 36. I'll measure it, but that is solid rock in the bottom. I could not get through that. Now then, let's get the pipe laid out and get it glued together, throw it in the ditch, and see how far it goes to up there at the transformer box. And then when I determine where it's going to end, then I'll dig out the area for that transformer box to put in. Now comes the fun part of dragging all this pipe, and I just dropped it. Fantastic. Now that I got all the pipe laid out, it's time to glue it all together, and that is just as easy as it sounds. This is not holding, it's not obviously not under pressure, holding water or anything. You basically just want this held together so that it doesn't come apart when you try to run your string through there, like I'm gonna do here in a little while. You don't want this to come apart in the ditch and then you cannot get your string and your wire through there. That would be a problem. Basically, all you do is just glue this together. Put a little bit in the bell end and a little bit on the straight end, and it just slides together just as easy as 1, 2, 3. There we go. Got 17 pipes to glue together, so I'll bring you along for 2 or 3 of them, and then I'll get the rest of them glued in and thrown in the ditch. And just like that, we've got 3. Get this one knocked out right quick, and then I'm gonna speed it on up through there. One thing though that I want to mention is I'm putting this pipe in the ground. If you're doing this and you're expecting rain, there's a rainstorm coming, every so often you better put you know, at least a couple feet of dirt on this pipe up through there, the full length of the pipe, because now that is glued together and sealed, that pipe is like a balloon. If water goes in this ditch, it will float that pipe up out of the ground. Trust me, I've been there, done that, and I have the t-shirt. It is not fun then to pull that pipe back out and re-dig. That is not fun at all. We're ready to put this pipe in the ground, and then we'll get that string running in it. I think if I pull it right here, I can get it to go in. Ugh. Should be good. Let's go check on it. Yeah, that'll be fine. Once that goes off in there, this will be about 4 inches above the ground, and then they'll connect their conduit onto it and run it up the pole. This is a little easier if you put your pipe together on. About fell in. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I said you can make a turn, and sometimes when you make a turn like that, you have to force this pipe down in the ground. It's not much of a bow, but it is enough to keep it from going in by itself. So basically, you just step on it, push it all the way down. It's right over a root. There we go. Maybe you can see that pipe laying in the ditch down through there, but that is what we wanted. And then up here where your pipe is ending, if you put a board or something across the ditch, it'll hold your pipe up so it's not falling down in there. You have to snake down in there and get it. pull it back up. Now on this end, you're going to have a coupling to put this pipe together with this this 3-foot sweep, because this end doesn't have a bell end. Now when I started, you saw me glue that on. That pipe at that end had a bell end, and I was just able to slide that sweep down into it. Not on this end, but so what you just use is simply put coupling on there. Fortunately, Kevin came by at the right time, and he searched his van once, twice, and 3 times, and finally come up with a coupling we can put on here. And one thing you want to wait, but that first sweep I put that on where it was under the ditch. You do not want to glue this second sweep on, or the end sweep on, until you have this down in the pipe, because you could accidentally glue it the wrong way. It could be like that, but you want it to be 90 degrees. So wait till you get to this end to glue this sweep on here. You just want to hold it for just a few seconds, let that glue set, and then you can turn it loose. What I'm going to do now is raise the pipe up, pull that board out, and let this end go down in there, and that will show me where I need to set this transformer box. Well, and here's what happens when you get too quick with something. My glue hadn't set up good. I turned that loose, and the sweep fell completely off of it. I got that to do again. Now then, I got to get this other piece out. Ooh. Well, it helps to be tall. I barely got it. What I should have done was waited a little longer, and then let that glue set up a little bit more, or ease it down in there, which I didn't do. Always in a hurry. My wife tells me all the time, slow down. Now, what I'm going to do is move this board, and this time ease it down in the ground. Like that. What I need to do now is get this trencher off and put my my bucket on the skid steer, because I need to pull this dirt back on both sides of the pipe. Get that dirt back, put that box in place, and then mark that with some paint where it needs to go. And then I'll dig that out and set that box in it. And it's just got to be buried, I guess technically, just enough to cover it. But I like to usually bury them up to about right here. I think they want, if I remember right, 4 to 6 inches sticking up out of the ground. So you just dig your area down, set this in it, and backfill it. My bucket is 72 inches wide, basically 6 foot, and that box is probably 4 foot wide. All I need to do is just make dig out a little bit here for it to fit, but I got to get this dirt out of the way first and set it in place, and then mark it where I want to dig it. Now let me jump the ditch down here somewhere where it won't matter, and scrape it out of the side back. take a minute and explain this box. You can see that this box has got a wider part, fatter part on the back side of it than it does the front where the hole is. That's where the weight of the transformer will set, is on that back part. And then there's a door on that transformer box that will fold up right here, and that gives them access to the front of the transformer, which would set about right in here. And then they got this much room to work. And then I positioned this so that this pipe is a little farther to this side, because the pipe going to the house eventually will come in about right here. And that's why I overdug the hole, is so that I can easily stick the trencher back in right here and dig the line over to the house. And what you want to do, because they want to be able to service this from the road, is put that door section facing the road. That way, if there's weeds and little saplings or whatever grows up behind it that kind of gets away, the vegetation gets away, they can always have access to the front. Now I just want to mark some over dig area so that I can get this in here where I need it. There right now, trying to paint the ground when it's dusty is almost an impossibility, because it just blows the dust out, and it blows the paint away too. But it'll be enough to where I can see it. There we go. Get this box out of the way and dig that out. And I only have to take out about a foot on that other side, opposite side of where I am. So I'm just gonna come from this side and take me some dirt out right there. Do that 2 or 3 times and that should be deep enough. And then I'll go to the other side and do the same thing for digging out this side. Let me pull some of this loose dirt back. I don't want that in the hole. There we go. Now I've got an aggravating mess. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, as usual, and I was dumping dirt right here. I filled my ditch up. I've got to dig that back out with the trencher, and also this was a lot harder to dig out than I imagined it was going to be. Just the ground was so hard. Ended up filling this ditch in here as well. I'll put the trencher back on real quick and dig that part back out and dig this part back out, and then we'll set this box in there. Ready to put the pipe back in where it goes, get it set in place like that. And I need to elevate that a good bit. So what I want to do is pick this pipe up and kick some dirt under that elbow so that it's elevated. And what I mean by that is, I think I said it a while ago, but they want it sticking up inside the box a little bit. That should be good right there. Need to get a shovel now and clean this up and set the box in here. Work on this here for a few minutes and get this squared up for the box, and we'll see how it fits. Wow. I got that leveled out like it needs to be. Put the box in here and see what it looks like. And I haven't mentioned the weather yet, but it's the last week of August of 2025. And we got temperatures in the high 70s, low 80s, and humidity is almost like nothing for this week. This is Tuesday, and we've got the rest of the week gonna be like this. Absolutely fantastic weather. I'm loving it. It's fall, they call it, but I'll take it. Just like that. Beautiful. Looks like it's leaning towards me just a little bit, and it is, but not much. Let me kick a little dirt under that and get that raised up on this end. Get it level. That should be enough. Yep. This corner needs to go up just a tad. Good and good. That is positioned there where it needs to be, and my overdig was good. I had plenty of room to work, move dirt around the sides, and my pipe is in the front section of this part here will be the door, and there's room for the other one right there. This in around it. Now the next part I want to do is I've got to run this string out of this bucket and through the entire length of the pipe, and the reason that I do that is because the power company will hook them to one end of this string and they'll pull their strap through there, and then they use their strap to pull the wire through. So it has to be has to have a string run through it. A couple different ways that I do it, and today I'm going to use a blower. I generally prefer using a vacuum cleaner, but I'd had to loaded my generator and then loaded the vacuum and all that. But today I'm just going to use a backpack blower, and you just tie a paper bag or a plastic bag around it, stick it down in the pipe, and that's actually fitting too tight. It's got air in it. You get that air out of there. I don't need that in there. Stick that down in there just like that. And I'm gonna take that blower, you won't be able to hear me when I turn that blower, I'm gonna take that blower and force that air through that pipe, and it'll pull that string through the pipe and out the other side. I wish I'd have had the camera on the other side, because it was blowing that string up like a water fountain. Let's go see how much string I blowed out of there. Wow, yeah, I overdone it just a little bit. Look at that. Gosh, oh, I should have been looking down here. Anyway, I'm gonna tie this off here to the fence, and then I'm gonna pull that back in there and put it back in the bucket. Ain't no sense in wasting that. What a mess. This might take a minute. I'll get this string back down in here, and then we'll carry on to the next part. Next thing you want to do is cover these up after you get that string in there. I normally use duct tape and just put duct tape over the hole, but I don't have any. I used the last that I had the other day. So I put a plastic bag over the top of it, and then I'll put that rag, and then I'm just going to put a piece of a tie wire around it, and that ain't cutting very good. That's fine. It's just fine. Oh my gosh. Really? Now then. Now that'll hold that on there, and I'll do that to the other side. Put the string in, got the ends covered up now with those rags and bags, and you can see this area here, I got that leveled out and packed in around that box. That thing is good to go. The next thing that I want to do is come down here to this road crossing. Normally at this point though, you're finished because you have to leave the ditch open for the VEC inspector, the electric company inspector, to come out, inspect the ditch, make sure you got the conduit in, make sure the string is in, and if you're running to a house, they want the conduit plugged into the box, the meter box on the outside of the house. Everything has to be done. You can't leave anything left undone, because they want to roll in here, run their wire and hook it up, and head out. So yeah, everything has to be finished before we call in for inspection. I just text Kevin to do the inspection. The tough part about this job and septic tank jobs and things that require inspections is they have up to 72 hours, 3 days basically, to come out and inspect this. So you got to make a decision. Am I leaving a machine here to cover it up with and then come out and get the machine, or am I taking the machine out with me? So those things you have to factor in. If you're a contractor, if you're an excavator doing it yourself, if you're a homeowner, then you got to decide, well, do I keep this machine rented for 3 days? Maybe they'll show up today or tomorrow, or just rent the machine to cover it back up with after they inspect it. So those decisions have to be made because of the delay in the inspections. In this case, let me go back to the point about covering it up if you're expecting rain. If you're expecting rain and you're going to have an inspection, here they're okay with you covering it up every so often to keep that pipe from floating up. But today what I've got to do is fill back in along this road right here, and because there is a crane coming tomorrow to set the trusses, I can't leave this ditch open for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to backfill about 2 feet of dirt over the road, and then I've got that red tape. I'll show you that in just a minute. You backfill 2 feet, you put that red tape in, and then you finish backfilling. So let's get this couple feet put in, and then I'll show you how to do that tape. And the way I do this, I just reach across the ditch and put my teeth down and pull just enough in that I need without filling the ditch too full. And that works out pretty good. And then you can just kind of ease up and look in the ditch and see if you need more. Which I did need just a little bit more there. And we'll get that taken care of as I go down through here, and then I'll be back in just a minute. And the purpose of this buried line, I'll show you what it says there. It says caution, electrical line buried below. That's what this is for. This is a caution tape that you put inside the ditch. So if an excavator or homeowner, somebody comes along and digging in this area doesn't call 811, which we should do, and they come across this red tape, then they know that there's an electrical line buried below. It's safety. It keeps people safe from digging into a high-powered line like that. Now then, I'm going to go back a little ways from where I started filling. That way I know I got a good coverage in there. Put a little dirt on that to hold it down. And then I'm just going to stream this out and put it in the ditch and finish covering up the ditch. Got that on both sides of the ditches now, like I mentioned, where I'm going to fill in a good distance. And one thing that's kind of a pain is these roots, these surface roots of these trees. They get in the way and then make you have to spend time coming down through here with a board or something, whatever you got handy, to push it down past the roots. That should be good. Now that's good and all the way down through there. Let's get this filled in and packed. Well, the skid steer and the trencher is on the trailer now, so that must mean one thing, and that means I am done for now, till I get to come back and fill it in once the inspection is taken care of. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it was enough information and enough technique on how to do this to help you decide if you want to DIY this or maybe hire somebody to do it for you. And also, you may be a contractor or a beginning excavator or want to get into excavation work. I believe this is probably enough information to help you decide that this is something you want to do or you want to try to do. Not very complicated. There's a few restrictions you have to go by and a few things that you have to do in detail that the power company wants you to do. But other than that, it's pretty easy, pretty simple to do. You will run into problems occasionally, like rock and different things, but you have to work through those. I hope you've enjoyed it. God bless, and thanks for watching. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and hopefully it'll give you some information and decision whether or not you want that to be a DIY project or you want to hire somebody that, like me, that does that for a living. So it's up to you. It's a pretty cool job to try out, and hopefully if you do it for yourself, you won't have as many troubles as I do in the jobs that I do. I want to get into the message, but before I do that, I want to mention this comment that I've gotten a couple different times, actually. It's from Michael Carter, and Michael Carter has kind of named this part of the video, especially the way that I'm doing it now in the back of this flatbed truck, as the Flatbed Ministry. So I like that name. I told him that. I thought it was pretty cool. And one thing he said, his comment was, nothing better than the back of a flatbed pickup to spread the word. You know what, Michael? I believe that's true as well. And I'm probably going to use this more often than I have in the past. And I just think it's a cool way to do this. So it's going to be the Flatbed Ministries from time to time. What I want to talk about in the message today is about being DIY. You know, in that video, I tried to explain all the details about becoming DIY for that job and how that you could do that. But you know, there's a lot of religion in the world today that's teaching folks how to do it yourself. how to become righteous enough, or how do you work your way into heaven, or how to be good enough, or to do the right things to earn your salvation and earn your way into heaven. And I call that the DIY salvation. It's not effective. It's not going to work. It doesn't get you to heaven. It's because it's pride and arrogance that we try to earn our way into heaven, or have the right to pass right on into heaven by our own works and by our own righteousness. And that's just not possible. So there's a lot of religion in the world today teaching that. But the teaching that I share with you is the truth of Jesus Christ, and that there's only one way to heaven, and that's through Jesus Christ and the sacrifice that he made. What I want to look at in the scripture today, in the message, we find in Matthew chapter 26, starting about verse 36. And this is a point in the Bible where Jesus knew that his time had come, where he was to be sacrificed. He was to die on a cross, a cruel death on the cross, so that I could be forgiven of my sins, that he would take my sins upon himself, and the word would tell us that he imputes, and he gives me his righteousness because of my faith and trust in him. So let's look at the word, and it says in verse 36, it says, "Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, 'Sit here while I go and pray over there.' And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to," listen to this, "he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said this in verse 38. He said to them, 'My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me.' Then Jesus, going a little farther, it says this, he went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, saying, 'Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me.'" 3 times. 3 times Jesus prayed that prayer, "Father, if it be possible, to let this cup pass from me." And 3 times Jesus said, "Nevertheless, not my will be done, but yours." So when Jesus was praying this prayer, the Bible tells us he was in great agony, actually that he was in such agony and such distress that he sweat great drops of blood. And that's a lot of stress in a person's life, in a man's life, to be in that kind of condition, to be sweating blood. Jesus 3 times prayed, "Father, let this cup pass from me." And then 3 times he said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." That answers the question for me, is there any other way? Can I be good enough? Can I work my way into heaven? Is there a way to be religious enough to accomplish this? Jesus said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done," submitting his flesh to the obedience of the Father to die on the cross. If there was another way, if God had planned there to be another way that person could work their way into heaven, or they could be good enough, God at that moment would have said, "Son, come on home. We're just going to let them work their way into heaven. We'll let them be religious. There'll be another way. Just come on home. You don't have to suffer this death on the cross." But Jesus saying, "Not my will, but your will be done." At that moment and that very time, that also tells me that was God's will, and that was God's purpose, for Jesus to suffer and die. His Son, his only begotten Son, John 3:16 tells us, that whoever believes in him shall never perish, but have eternal life. I hope that's your faith. I hope you're trusting in Jesus Christ today as your Savior and your Lord, and placing your faith and trust in him and the finished work, what he accomplished on the cross, dying for your sins and mine. If we place our faith and trust in him, there is no other way. There is no other way. There is no DIY process or program to get yourself to heaven other than through Jesus Christ. Admitting that we're sinners, believing in Jesus and who he said he was, and then confessing him as Lord, and then repenting, turning away from our sin, having a mind change, having a heart change, having a complete change of who we are to follow Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. I hope you've done that. If you haven't, I hope you do that soon. So God bless you, and I appreciate you watching.